Good afternoon, everyone. Shalom. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'm going to take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Just make sure you put your questions in the chat of the Zoom with your name and your outlet. Today, it's Monday, October 20th, and today is day 745 since Hamas kidnapped our people and have continued to hold them inside of the Gaza Strip. We open today with deep sorrow, bearing the weight of the most painful news, the loss of our courageous soldiers. Since the war began, 918 IDF heroes have fallen. These are not statistics. These are not faceless people. Each one was a life filled with a promise, a future stolen, a world unto themselves. Major Yaniv Kula was just 26 years old and from Modi'in. He fell in battle in southern Gaza. He was laid to rest this morning in Jerusalem. Also, Staff Sergeant Itai Yavetz was just 21 years old and also from Modi'in. He too fell in battle yesterday in the same incident in the southern part of Gaza. He will be laid to rest this afternoon in Modi'in. The Prime Minister spoke for the nation when he sent heartfelt condolences to the families of Yaniv and Itai. He also sent wishes for a speedy recovery to our wounded in that attack and breach of the ceasefire. The Prime Minister said that Yaniv and Itai fought courageously against the Hamas murderers to protect the security of Israel. Their bravery and heroism will be cherished in our hearts forever. May their memory be a blessing. Let me share some details of this Hamas attack you've probably heard about. On Sunday, around 2:30 p.m. Israel time, the IDF announced terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards our troops who were operating to dismantle terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area, which is all in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. In response to that, the IDF started striking in the Rafah area to eliminate the threat and to dismantle tunnel shafts and military structures for terrorist activities. The blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement led the IDF to respond firmly. Following the violation, the Prime Minister held consultations with the Defense Minister and heads of the security establishment, directing them to take strong action against terrorist targets inside of Gaza. Now, after days of executing their own people and our soldiers who should have never been killed during a ceasefire, were dragged into the terrorist barbaric and irresponsible actions, which are the biggest threat to the Israeli and the Palestinian people. After this deadly incident involving our soldiers, we committed to responding forcefully against the brutal rule and thwart Hamas's weakening grip inside of Gaza. Now, around 6 p.m. on Sunday Israel time, the IDF began a series of strikes against Hamas terror targets inside of southern Gaza. It led to the striking and dismantling of 6 kilometers of underground terrorist infrastructure, which was used by Hamas to advance attacks against the state of Israel. Not only were our soldiers killed in this incident in Rafah, dozens of incidents have been documented by the IDF of terrorists crossing the yellow line, which is where our soldiers were redeployed to under this agreement that Hamas has violated. The state of Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens. Now, following the series of attacks in response to Hamas violating the ceasefire and attacking our soldiers, around 9 p.m. Sunday Israel time, the IDF began the renewed enforcement of the ceasefire. We will not only continue to uphold the ceasefire agreement, but we will enforce it. Let it be known and understood, we are still demanding for the bodies of our deceased hostages to be returned by the terror organization Hamas. We know Hamas can return them, and we know that Hamas is aware of where they are located. There are 16 deceased hostages that are required to be released under this first phase of this plan. As Hamas continues to make the excuse they cannot locate them, let's make something very clear. Hamas dragged our hostages into Gaza and either murdered them on October 7th or during captivity, with the sole exception of a soldier taken in 2014. No one misplaces people they kidnapped. Any suggestion that Hamas doesn't know where the hostages are is not just an excuse, it's part of their propaganda. Journalists repeating that line should ask themselves whether they're reporting facts or echoing the narrative of a brutal terrorist organization. I can also confirm at this time, Prime Minister Netanyahu met earlier today with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, on the developments and updates in the region. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Second Lady Usha Vance, will also be visiting Israel for a few days and will be meeting with the Prime Minister. I'll take a few questions right now. Going through some of these questions. The first one from Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. There is a claim that Hamas did not fire an RPG at the IDF, but rather that soldiers in a bulldozer drove over unexploded ordnance. First off, Joel, I think you're better than that, not to believe these ridiculous lies that Hamas is perpetuating in the media. Let's just talk about the facts that I have right here that I have just told you in this briefing. On Sunday, terrorists carried out an attack of multiple shootings, including an RPG and armed fire in multiple positions, killing 2 of our IDF soldiers. The second thing you should know, Hamas continues to hold our hostages. 16 deceased hostages are still in Gaza right now, held by Hamas, the terror organization. As they agreed to in the first phase of this deal is to release all of our hostages, all 48. There are 16 hostages left in captivity. The third, dozens of incidents of terrorists have crossed the yellow line that have happened so far, the yellow line where our IDF soldiers are redeployed to. And 4, they continue to execute its own civilians. Let's not forget what's happened in the last week here. Executions of civilians on the streets in Gaza. And your second question, Joel, Jared Kushner says that Israel must invest in a better life for Palestinians. Israel has said this, and it is completely laid out in the 20-point plan. In order for the Palestinians to have a future inside of Gaza, there can no longer be Hamas. That is strictly outlined there. Hamas will have no part inside of the Gaza Strip. They will be demilitarized. They will be disarmed. Matthew Duran from ABC News Australia. How does the Israeli government respond to accusations from Palestinian health officials in Gaza that the bodies of Palestinians recently handed over by Israeli authorities show signs of torture and mistreatment and have been returned in advanced states of decomposition and without any identification material? I don't have any information to share on that, but I will go back to you and continue to say if you have any contact with Palestinian health officials, that is Hamas. Let's make that very clear. And you should ask Hamas where the bodies of our 16 hostages are. We are waiting for them to be returned. Lior Soroka from the Washington Post. Have Witkoff and Kushner arrived in Israel? Will they meet with the Prime Minister? And what is on the agenda for that? So Witkoff, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner did have a meeting with the Prime Minister today. And that's the information I can provide you on that. And they discussed developments and updates in the region as well. So those are the 3 questions that I currently have. Would love to answer more, but those are all we have at this current point in time. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us today.